Thanks for watching. My name's Matt. This channel's called The Right Car. This could be the right SUV for you if you're looking for a 5 or 7 seater, front wheel drive or all wheel drive, petrol or plug-in hybrid. Look, there are so many choices available to you in the Outlander range. I'm going to cover a bunch of those options in this review, so stay tuned. If you haven't already, please do hit like and subscribe. I've already done a review of the Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid models, but this one is all about the cheaper petrol versions. Stay tuned and I'll tell you which one I reckon is the pick of the range. Righto, petrol models of the Outlander. There are 9 different versions available. Some of them are front wheel drive, some of them are all wheel drive, some have 5 seats, some have 7. You'll see the details pop up on your screen as we go through the different models in the range. The entry-level version is called the ES. It is very affordable, but it's also very budget feeling on the inside. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It's more of a fleet-focused car. So step up to the LS and you instantly get some really good additions, including a 9-inch touchscreen media system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wireless and wireless phone charging. And you buy the base model, you get an 8-inch screen with plug-in connectivity for your smartphone. And you also score really good stuff like keyless entry and push button start. You've got a leather steering wheel, leather gear knob. You still get 18-inch alloy wheels and you still get LED lights like you do on the base model. So there are some really nice additions if you step up to the LS. Then if you choose this one here, it's the black edition. As you can probably tell by the fact that it's got some black bits on it, including this black badge, black grille, black 20-inch wheels, so that's a 2-inch step up from the entry-level version. And on the inside, it gets a fake leather trim with micro suede inserts, and it does look and feel pretty nice in there. Plus, you also get a black headliner, which I don't love, but some people really dig. If you step up from there to the Aspire, which used to be my pick of the range, but I think this one is now, then you get a few extras that you will appreciate, including the same interior trim, but it gets heated front seats. You also get an electric tailgate and a head-up display. And then if you step up from there to the Exceed grade, which is sort of like the flagship model, you're ending up with a bunch of really, really nice stuff. You get leather interior trim, you get a heated steering wheel, a Bose stereo system, 3-zone climate control, so you get a separate climate zone for the back seats, and it also feels a lot more plush on the inside. And from there you can step up to the Exceed Tourer, which basically takes the Exceed and makes it a 2-tone pack option, so you get 2-tone exterior finish and 2-tone leather on the inside. So tell me which one you would pick, or would you pick one of the alternatives that I'm about to tell you about? If you're after a 7-seater about this size, then there's one that I really think you should be checking out. It's the Kia Sorento. Look, the price is a little higher. Spec for spec, you're going to be spending quite a bit more money, but I reckon you're getting a much more usable 7-seat car. If that's what your priority is, I reckon it's a fantastic option for families who are looking for that 7-seat SUV that isn't too big on the outside style car. If you are on a really strict budget, then you should be checking out the Mahindra XUV 700. Check out my review of that Indian-made 7-seat SUV. It is a fantastic option if you are on a really, really super tight budget, because it's under 40 grand drive away for the top spec version, at least when I'm filming this. And it comes with a 7-year warranty, a bunch of standard equipment, a bunch of standard safety technology too. So it could be the right 7-seater for you if that's what you are prioritizing. But if you're after something that's all-wheel drive, that's practical, and you don't need 7 seats or want 7 seats, then how about the Subaru Outback? It's got the choice of a non-turbo or a turbocharged engine. There are no hybrid or plug-in hybrid or EV versions of that car though, so it might be a little bit behind in terms of what's on offer, but what is on offer is very impressive in terms of the interior, the space, the utilization, the way it drives, and I also reckon that now that I've spent a bit of time after driving that turbo one, that maybe the turbo would be the better choice. But tell me what you reckon in the comments section. The Outlander is about 4.7 metres long and 1.8 metres wide. It can be a little bit hard to judge in terms of the width when it comes to parking this car. Might be more to do with the steering than anything else, but the size is a little bit deceiving. Look, you have the choice, as I mentioned, of 2 or 3 rows of seating, depending on what your priorities are. I reckon it's a better 5-seater than 7-seater. I'll show you why in the next section, but now let's check out the boot, see if it's practical enough. Now, let's talk about boot space with 7 seats up. as you can probably see here, there is enough space to be able to fit, well, a couple of school bags and maybe some shopping, maybe even a pram if you've got one of the small ones. But we need to talk about these headrests. They are huge, and they also get in the way. You can't actually fold the seat down without removing them. So take them out, which is a bit of a task. And you have to load them in under here, which is where they live. Look, it is clever design when they're out of the way, but when they're in the way, they are really in the way. It makes it hard to see out of the back as well. All right, so let's fold these seats back down, and you'll see in terms of 5-seater layout, you do have enough space for a family of 5 to basically go away for a long weekend, maybe a week if you're a really tight packing family. But it is going to be useful enough as a 5-seater if that's what you're going to use it as. I'll show you what it's like as a 7-seater in the third row in the next section, but also just note that you do get a space saver spare wheel in here as well, which is good to see. Yeah, it's not too bad, but I wouldn't say that it's the best when it comes to 7-seater space, as you'll see when I get to the third row. So this one is the Black Edition, as I've mentioned, and it gets a nice interior trim finish, nicer than the entry-level versions at least. It does have this fake leather bolstering on the outer edges of the seats, micro suede on the inside. I love micro suede. I like it more when it's the real Alcantara stuff, but this still feels pretty nice. I don't love the black headliner, as I mentioned, and it looks even, well, a little bit dorkier because you've got halogen interior lights, which are really dull and yellow. But look, I still think that this cabin does feel pretty nice for the money that's being asked for this car. And there are some nice trim elements to the dashboard as well. In this grade, you get this nice stitching with a soft padded finish. There's another soft padded sort of section below that as well. It just looks a lot nicer than the last generation Outlander or any other Mitsubishi product that's on the market right now, if you ask me. So they've got this 9-inch touchscreen media system up here as well. If you've seen my Nissan X-Trail review, hit the link up there if you haven't, you'll know that that looks pretty familiar because a lot of the stuff between the Outlander and the X-Trail is shared these days. That's no bad thing. I think this screen's pretty good. It's very easy to get Apple CarPlay connected and all that sort of stuff. So I've had no real issues with it. You've also got another screen in front of the driver. I do have a bit of an issue with it because whenever you have adaptive cruise control configured, it will basically prioritize showing you that there's a distance rather than showing you the speed that you're traveling at the time. So you have to look at the analog dial to see that instead. Unless you buy one of the cars that has the head-up display, then you can look ahead and see the speed and see just how bad the adaptive cruise control is at maintaining your pace when there's something 300 meters in front of you. It's another story. Now you've got dual zone climate control. This car also gets heated seats, as I've mentioned. I like this shifter, although it is a little bit hard to get used to when you first get in this car. It's got a sort of weird action to it. You sort of just slide it forward and back. You don't actually lever it, so to speak. So I think it's okay, but some people might find it a little bit confusing at first. There's also a drive mode selector behind that, in this grade at least. And when it comes to storage, it's pretty good. Wireless phone charger up here, a couple of USB ports, USB-C and A as well. And you've also got a couple of bottle holders in the doors, cup holders here as well, a decent sized center console bin, and nice soft padded sections on the doors as well. But just remember, if you've watched my ES version of the PHEV, the review of that car, I mentioned that the seat trim and the door trim in that car feels a little bit cheap, and that is the case with the petrol version of the ES as well. All right, let's check out the second row. Just like in the X-Trail, the Outlander does have a pretty stadium seat style setup in the second row. So you feel like you're sitting up quite high, looking over the seats in front of you. And I like that, and kids will like that too. My daughter thought it was pretty cool to be able to see so much, although the window line is still quite high. So littler kids might find it still a bit hard to see out the windows. Now, speaking of kids, you've got ISOFIX points and 3 top tethers for the back row. You can fit 3 adults across here if you need to as well. There are some really nice amenities when it comes to the kids. You've got a couple of directional air vents down here, a little storage tray, some USB ports. You've got these multi-pocket map pockets on the seat backs. So you've got a couple of different options available to you for storage, for phones, for toys, for drinks, whatever you need to put in there, you probably can. So there's also a flip down here, but you have to actually fold down the entire seat to get cup holders. So that's not the most ideal. And yeah, the space is pretty good for someone my size to be able to sit here, lounge here, in fact, behind my own driving position. 182 centimeters or 6 foot, lots of leg room, fair amount of headroom as well, and good shoulder space. Decent toe room too. So let's see if it's as accommodating in the third row. Hint, it's not. All right, how do I get in here? Don't mind me, I hurt my ankle recently. I'll just be a bit awkward getting in here. Yeah, okay. That's not great. Really not fantastic. Anyway, if I slide this seat back, yeah, I don't have very much foot room, but I have size 12 feet. So people who have smaller feet, which is almost everyone, might find that it's okay. But for me, this is pretty tight. I'm just going to actually move my feet out of there. Now, in terms of amenities, you've got some cup holders in the, I guess they're wheel arches. There's no air vents in the third row. Yeah, it's pretty bleak back here, to be honest. There is a top tether point. Now that is for the middle seat in the second row. There's no child seat anchor points in the third row, but honestly, you wouldn't want to put a child seat back here anyway. These are basically 5+2 occasional seats, and Mitsubishi calls them that to their credit. They don't call this a 7-seater, they call it a 5+2. That sums it up nicely, I reckon. All of the petrol versions of the Outlander come with a 2.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine. It's not turbocharged. It does have, well, reasonable power and torque outputs. They're not necessarily amazing, but you do find that if you have just 2 or 3 people on board, it'll have enough grunt. Maybe more than that, you might find the limits of this engine. It does have a CVT automatic transmission, and like I mentioned, there's the choice of front wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Just depends on which version you choose. This new generation Outlander is so much better than the last model to drive. Although it's not the best mid-size SUV to drive, there's still some improvements that could be made. My biggest bugbear with this car is the steering. I find it really hard to judge at times, especially at higher speeds. It sort of feels like you've constantly got to be adjusting your steering when it comes to keeping a straight ahead line. And you know, really you shouldn't have to be doing that. It's just a little bit annoying, and I do find that it feels a little bit worse on the 20-inch wheel versions of this car than it does on the versions with the 18-inch wheels and the slightly higher profile, maybe less assertive tires. So maybe the price of those 20-inch wheels isn't just the fact that you have to spend more to get them. There's a bit of an outcome-based price on it as well. And also in terms of the ride, like the suspension does struggle a little bit with these 20-inch wheels. And yes, the versions that have the plug-in hybrid system do have a slightly different suspension tune, and it feels a lot more compliant, a lot more comfortable, and a lot more resolved at times. But look, I don't think that if you really get down to the point of it, there's any reason not to buy a version with the 20-inch wheels. I don't think the ride's that bad that it's not worth buying because the ride is a little bit firm. Some people might think that way, but I don't, and I don't think you should either. As it is, you've got front wheel drive in this grade, and you can have some moments where it feels like the wheel is tugging a little bit. That's called torque steer, and it just means that when you're accelerating, the steering can't keep up with the fact that it's trying to put the power down through that front axle as well. And that can be just a little bit disconcerting at times. But yeah, if you buy the all-wheel drive versions, you're less likely to have that as an issue. I think it's a pretty decent drive experience, certainly not the best in the class, but this engine is pretty good. It's got plenty of pulling power, a nice amount of grunt to it, and it's probably going to be fine for families of 4, maybe 5, but if you're filling up all the seats, yeah, you might find the limits of its grunt potential. There are a few different figures for the official combined cycle fuel consumption for the front wheel drive and all wheel drive versions of this car. So I'll show you the range of front wheel drive ones now on screen. So that's not too bad, but not necessarily benchmark setting. And if you are after the all-wheel drive versions, obviously they use just a little bit more fuel. You'll see the figure on your screen now. That's the official number for the variants available with all-wheel drive. And if you're wondering what I've seen over a mix of driving over a week with this Black Edition front-wheel drive, you'll see that on your screen now. Look, it's okay, but certainly not as good as it could be, and certainly not as good as I achieved in the plug-in hybrid version. Hit the link up there and you'll be able to check it out. The Outlander has a 5-star ANCAP safety rating from 2022 for both the petrol and the plug-in hybrid grades, so that's good to know. And it does come with a bunch of standard safety technology across the entire range, including autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian, cyclist and junction detection. You've got lane keeping assistance, blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert. There's now rear AEB as standard across the range as well, which is nice to see. There's a reversing camera on most grades, and if you choose the Aspire or any of the models above it, you get a surround view camera as standard. Now, when it comes to airbag coverage, it's okay, but if you are going to use the third row all the time, just be mindful that the curtain airbags in this car don't stretch to the third row. So there is no head protection from the airbags in that very back row, but there is dual front, front side, front center, and those mid-length curtain airbags included as standard. Mitsubishi offers a headline-grabbing 10-year warranty, but you have to read the fine print because that's not the standard warranty. The standard warranty is a 5-year, 100,000K plan, which is below the average for this market segment these days. But if you do service your car with Mitsubishi, you end up with a 10-year, 200,000 kilometre plan. So if you are planning to buy one, I would recommend that you service it with Mitsubishi if you can, so you can get that really long warranty. Now, speaking of servicing, the intervals are 12 months and 15,000 kilometres, which is about average. And the service costs aren't too bad, but they're not exceptionally cheap. You'll see the average cost over that 10-year cap price servicing plan on your screen now. Now, Mitsubishi also offers roadside assist, but it only covers 4 years of ownership. So there you have it, the Outlander petrol models. I reckon this Black Edition is a bit of a standout when it comes to the price, the spec and the standard gear. And you can tell me what you reckon in the comments section below, whether you would choose an Outlander, one of the other rivals, or something completely different. Let me know what you reckon, because I think this is a very impressive family option for those on a budget. But I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, please do hit like, subscribe and the bell icon. And also, have your say in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.